Morning. Recognizing a quorum of commissioners present, I call the first March 18th, 2026 meeting of the Cannabis Control Commission to order. This meeting is being held hybrid pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 and is being recorded. Commissioners Benedon, Roy, Stebbins, and myself, Commissioner Benedon is attending remotely, are participating in today's meeting. All votes taken today will be by roll call. We have a short but important agenda today. We will begin with the public listening session on worker safety. Before we begin the listening session, I'd like to remind you that this session is being streamed live and there are microphones placed throughout the room. For that reason, I will ask you to please keep side conversations and noise to a minimum. This will help ensure that those watching remotely, as well as those here in the room, can clearly hear the speakers at the podium. Please note that commissioners are documenting comments and may choose not to ask questions today. I will ask commissioners wishing to comment or ask questions during any part of the meeting, please raise your hand to be recognized. And I will ask for some assistance if we have some remote questions. Actually, Commissioner Benedon, I can see you on my screen, so if you need to raise a hand, I'll try to keep an eye on that. We'll begin with the in-person portion of the public listening session. Then after a short recess, we will start the remote portion of the listening session. And just to let people know, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who are in person, so that we should get through that fairly quickly, and then we will turn after a brief recess to the remote. Again, asking for people wishing to testify, please add your name to the sign-up sheet. And again, we're taking testimony in the order of people having signed in. If there are elected officials here wishing to testify, they will go first. In order to allow as many people as possible to testify, we will be limiting testimony to 3 minutes. During the remote portion of the session, speakers who join remotely will be invited to come off mute, turn their camera on, introduce themselves, and tell us what entity or organization they represent. Due to technical constraints, while the speaker may not be able to see the commissioners and the public can see them. Speakers may be asked follow-up questions, again, at the discretion of the commissioners. The commission asks that speakers please use respectful language and speak to the topic at hand. The commission encourages speakers to submit their testimony in writing as well. For those who cannot attend this public meeting, written testimony regarding this public listening session regarding worker safety may be submitted to commission@cccmass.com with the subject line worker safety by 5 p.m. today. I will begin by calling individuals in the order they signed up to testimony. If someone is not present when their name is called, I will call their name again at the end of the list. When I call your name, please step up to the podium. And with that, the first person I will call is, I think it's Leonel Padilla. Okay, I don't see that person here. And Danny Carson Staley.
Morning, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Danny Carson Stair, and I'm here today on behalf of the Coalition for Cannabis Worker Health and Safety. I want to begin with something we cannot ignore. Lorna McMurray should still be alive. Her death was not an isolated incident, it was a warning. And since then, there has been additional reported cases of severe worker harm and potential deaths related to working conditions inside cannabis facilities. This is not theoretical, this is not rare, this is happening. There is a fundamental truth that must guide this conversation, that is worker safety and consumer safety are inseparable. Over the last several years, I've personally reviewed over 100 off-the-shelf cannabis products across Massachusetts. And when I encounter heavily mold-contaminated products, I do not just see a consumer risk, I see a worker exposure warning. Because if contaminated product is leaving a facility, then workers are being exposed first, longer, and at higher concentrations inside those environments. In addition to that, I've spoken directly with approximately 150 cannabis workers and former workers across Massachusetts. And the most persistent concern I hear across roles, companies, and regions is air quality inside post-harvest and production environments. Workers describe environments filled with particulate matter, dust, and aerosolized contaminants, often with little to no meaningful ventilation or protections. This issue is most prevalent in large scale cultivation and production facilities, but it's not limited to them. It exists in smaller operations as well. And just as concerning as the exposure itself is the silence around it. Workers are afraid to speak up. They fear physical retaliation, mental stress and targeting, legal consequences for raising concerns about their working conditions. So many of them stay quiet. Workers are the first line of contact. Workers are the most exposed. Workers are the most at risk. And workers are not separate from the public. They are the public. They go home to their families, they're in our communities, they're part of Massachusetts. So when we talk about public health, we must include them. And right now, there are more than 500 individuals have signed a petition calling that this commission take action to protect cannabis workers. That's not a small number. That is a clear and growing demand for accountability. And we need to be honest about how we got here. Before recreational cannabis, the Department of Public Health had oversight of worker health and safety in the state. But when the state transitioned to adult use, that responsibility shifted to the commission, and in transition, something critical was lost. There are still no meaningful enforceable regulations specifically to protecting cannabis workers. No clear standards for air quality, no required ventilation protections, no routine oversight of workplace exposure risks, no transparent investigations into working conditions inside of the facilities. We cannot continue to operate in a system where products are tested, sold, and regulated while people producing them are left unprotected and unmonitored. The commission has the authority and the responsibility to act. And I'll close with Lauren McMurray. Her death should have been the moment everything changed. It's not too late, but it is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. Are there any questions or comments from my fellow commissioners?
Yeah, so,
Right.
and thank you, Danny. And I, I've said this to you in the past, and, just grateful for your advocacy and your dedication to consumer and worker safety. And, it's always top of mind for me. And, we set up this hotline, tip line almost a year ago. And, I want to hopefully see it manned sooner rather than later. Do you think that tip line would be helpful for folks? Because you said workers are fearful of retaliation. And so do you think having this avenue, if you will, for them to call would be helpful to them?
I think it would be helpful, and I think it's a step in the right direction, but it isn't everything.
No, of course not.
But I think certainly it would be very beneficial, and it would give a direct line of communication for workers to be able to, give somebody this information that oftentimes, I feel I'm one of the only people that's getting. And so I have to, give that forward. But if there's an avenue for that, I think that would be really great.
If I may. And not to put you on the spot, Danny, but, a lot of times what we do is we look to other jurisdictions to see, best practices, if you will, and many jurisdictions look to us. So I don't know in your research if you've seen any other jurisdictions, maybe states that are more mature. I think Oregon did a study on cannabis dust, but if you, and it's our due diligence to do that as well. But I know that you're, steeped in this issue. And if there's any best practices that you see, feel free to share it with us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just, about a year and a half ago, I sat down with yourself and Commissioner Stebbins to talk about this with a few folks as well. And Washington State has a workers' health and safety guidebook that is available on their commission website, and that goes over identifying hazards in the workplace and how to properly prevent issues from happening, how to report them, and also what workers' rights are. And I think this being a very young industry and a young industry of workers themselves who may not have background in unionization or knowing their rights, I think including those in some kind of guidebook for workers would be really beneficial.
So this is also one of the concerns I have, and you may recall the death of Lorna McMurray was hidden from commissioners for 7-8 months. And I found out about this about, 4 weeks on the job in 2023. And so one of the original things that I did was I called up then Labor Secretary Marty Walsh and saying, hey, where are the OSHA people? And this is also, are you seeing, and I know you've worked with NIOSH, I think it is, but what are you seeing from OSHA? Because this is also one of the limitations that we have, is that, we don't have, a lot of the expertise that might be needed to protect workers. We don't necessarily currently possess, but that might be part of a regulatory process that we're kind of launching here. And again, obviously some of this stuff might be dependent upon funding, and public education is one of these things that, may well fall under worker safety as well. But what are you seeing from OSHA or other agencies, local departments of health? What are you seeing in the work that you've been doing across the Commonwealth and obviously talking to people across the country, Danny?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I just want to touch on you had mentioned, putting in regulatory framework for this and getting people on board that have that kind of background. And I just want to mention that the Department of Public Health, specifically their occupational health and safety division that they have, is very interested in helping with this. And so rather than having to wait for funding,
Yeah.
I think it would be really beneficial to connect with that department head and program manager. But what we're seeing when it comes to OSHA, I think in a lot of cases, these mold contamination in these facilities is quite a huge issue. OSHA doesn't have a standard for mold in the work environment. So they usually don't investigate when it comes to that specifically. When it comes to other things, it seems like they've been doing their due diligence, but a lot of folks don't even know, like workers don't even know if OSHA would come in because it's not federally legal.
Right.
So they don't even know if that's the right place to report this issue to. NIOSH health hazard evaluations have been really great, a great tool for workplaces to be able to get information about how to best improve their work environments based on their specific needs. But, when it comes to local boards of health who would have been kind of like the first, direct line for any kind of mold or things like that, they feel like they cannot step in and they have no authority in this and don't even feel like they are allowed to enter the facilities.
So this was, one of the things that I initially raised, bringing together DPH and, a number of different groups on a couple of issues. So one of the questions I might want to raise with the executive director is what, if anything, have we done in the last couple of years to coordinate? Because we may have had some conversations that might not be transparent to me in terms of looking at worker safety. Have we had conversations with DPH about how we might jointly, talk about worker safety, but in specific to the risk of mold and other contaminants in cannabis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I happen to put together kind of a summary of the work that we've done with DPH. Obviously, it spans a number of different things. We inherited the medical programs. We work with them quite a bit on that. In terms of specific to the question of worker safety, we do have a couple items. I'm happy to summarize that and bring it back to the board.
Okay, thanks. If we could actually, if we do have that, if we could get that for our first April meeting, if we could get that. Thanks, Danny. Unless Commissioner Benedon, I don't know if you have any questions. Commissioner Stebbins? Seeing none, thank you very much, Danny. We appreciate your advocacy. I know this has been central to what you've been doing. Again, Megan Doobie? Is she here? See her? Okay. Moving on to Henry Ortel. Not. Oh, Henry? Lucas. Lucas is remote.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Where to start? Danny basically covered.
Where you're from, just so people, sort of your affiliation, and we'll give you an extra couple of seconds, but could you just say where you're from and what your affiliation is and what's your interest.
All right. I'm from Athol. My affiliation, we so far 3 years unioned, and I keep on forgetting our call numbers, but we are 1445.
Are you FCW?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. My interest in this is, of course, health and safety. I am into the maintenance part of the equipment, and being in that part of the equipment, I see a lot of the stuff that just gets sucked out of those rooms. And from seeing that, there is no standardization. You know, at what point are they gonna actually start cleaning out the ductwork, start looking for mold, start, paying attention to what is really there? And Danny covered a lot of it. There's not much to say after that. That was very good. But my question in all this is, where is the authority figure in this? I've been in it for 5 years now, and I have very rarely seen the Cannabis Control Commission step foot on the property. And in the beginning, it was more of a promo thing, it seemed like. But after that, we're kind of stuck in an area where nobody's coming forward. Nobody's paying attention to what safety hazards may be there. There's just a list of stuff, and I believe like inspections would probably help. You would actually see it firsthand, especially if you're not announced and you show up and be like, hey, what do we got going on? You'd see the overcrowding. You would actually see what is really going on and the lack of ventilation and get a good feel for it. So.
Thank you. And Executive Director, maybe you can make a comment because, we are supposed to have a fairly regular pace of when we do have investigators go to any site. Obviously, looking at health and safety, is something that we do, but there are some limitations in terms of, our ability. We are not air quality experts, and we are not, and this is what we have to sort out. Is under our regulatory responsibility to make sure that that cannabis licensees are functioning in a safe way. We also need to understand what our limitations are, and then from here determine what maybe collaborations we can work on. As Danny pointed out, maybe with DPH, maybe with some local departments of health, but. I brought a coalition of people together when Commissioner Roy has been talking a lot about, they call it gas station weed. It's sort of the unregulated hemp-based high THC products. And it kind of doesn't fall in anybody's seat in some of the, THC hemp-based drinks. So bringing different groups together, because some of this does fall through the cracks. And that's why your leadership here is so important. But maybe the Executive Director could just give a commentary about how, we do bring, investigators in. We do have an ability, if people see a problem, we would ask for you to report that. And we want to be taking that information, from people if they see a problem. But maybe the Executive Director could just give a quick commentary about the pace of investigations if you're not seeing that to your satisfaction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to review as well and go through kind of the cadence of both announced and unannounced inspections to ensure that, we have been to the facilities within a reasonable period of time. As it relates to the ventilation, obviously, there are certain things within our regulations about what some of these businesses must have in terms of HVAC and other systems. So there are some levers to pull in that issue if we're able to find something outside of compliance. I just had one question, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, just because of the word, I think I wrote it down correctly, overcrowding. If you could just kind of give a little bit more context on that.
Let's say we have pallets in the hallways. We have shelving units in the hallways. A lot of times in between, you got a harvest going on, plus the shelving units in the hallways, plus pallets in the hallways. It's very difficult for one person to move through, let alone, 50 people at a time. I have seen in some instances where they actually have security redirect you a different route, so you're not walking through all that carnage.
Meaning the investigators.
No, meaning security at the place that we're working in.
Who's rerouting whom? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, rerouting the employees, so they're not going
Okay.
through like a
Yeah,
harvest.
I misunderstood. I thought you were saying our investigators were coming in and they were being rerouted. I'm like, I thought you were saying, so they can't see things. So.
No.
Sorry, thank you.
No.
Thank you for that clarification. So I think, and again, in a lot of these, and I think we talked about this quite a bit through the regulatory process on social consumption, where some of these things are also us working with other agencies. We obviously mentioned DPH earlier. There's OSHA, there's Department of Industrial Accidents as well. Some of those issues, if brought to our attention, and if it's not within our purview, hypothetically, although it may be, there's also issues with blocking, egress and those types of things from fire code. So there's a number of things that we could work with if provided that level of information, and certainly if we see it in sight, to your earlier point as well. So thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Commissioner Roy?
And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Henry, for your testimony. In your estimation, you had mentioned different environmental hazards, the ventilation, the ductwork, the mold, the items and blocking and egress. What is, in your estimation, the most severe environmental hazard you think workers are faced with?
It's kind of in between, I want to say, because there's really no one. So I'm going to say in between your ventilation, of what people are actually inhaling and of course the blockage of hallways. Because you got to figure if they're putting, if things are loaded up that much, I mean, that means shelves are overloaded. That means people are going to knock shelves over and squish, stuff like that. You're looking at more injuries.
Thank you. Commissioner Benedict? Did you have a question? I thought I saw, okay, Commissioner Stebbins?
Thank you, Chair. Henry, thanks for your testimony this morning. You talked about your responsibilities are working on different maintenance of equipment and machine. Are those building systems? Are those production machinery? Or are you a jack of all trades kind of?
That's jack of all trades.
Okay.
So if something goes wrong, I'm usually the one there to fix it. That's anything from the fertigation to light electrical to any of their HVAC stuff, mechanical. So like if they have valves stuck on their chiller system, that would be me and one of my teammates would go up there and fix it. But that being said, there is no standardization either of shutting this equipment down and actually giving it a full inspection, because the amount of air those machines move, it's not something you want to step into very close to those fans. So.
Okay, Commissioner Riggs, that just raised.
Yeah. Henry, is that the grinding machines? Can you tell me what you're referring to?
I am referring to the air handlers,
Okay.
and we have a lot of them. So,
And you just think they haven't been properly cleaned?
yeah, I know they haven't.
Okay.
Something in depth we have to really think about, like who does that fall on? So, all right.
And I mean, even at that, at least if there was a standard to collect the data to find out how long you can go and then what environments can be done under. Because you got to remember, even like the grow rooms, from processing the grow rooms, you're going to have different environments, but a lot of your environments are going to be, well within the 65% of relativity humidity, which right there, you're starting to cause cultures anyways, on top of having whatever's floating in the air. So.
Thank you. And if anybody has any further questions, and I don't know if he's still working with UFCW, but if he is, you tell Peter DeRuin that I said to say hello, because he was a big guy down in southeastern Mass. So he used to do a lot with Stop and Shop down there. So anyway, appreciate the good work that the union does and appreciate what you're doing to represent workers here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Rutherford is next.
Thank you, Commissioners, Executive Director. Good morning. My name is Melissa Rutherford, and I'm here representing 1620 Consultants. I'm submitting testimony, both spoken and written, today at your invitation for comment on worker safety in Massachusetts licensed marijuana establishments. I offer this testimony as a compliance and risk management consultant with an OSHA 30-hour general industry certification and direct experience assisting licensees in responding to OSHA workplace safety concerns, as well as a documented history of developing and delivering safety and security training to marijuana establishment agents across the Commonwealth. My comments address 3 interconnected issues. Firstly, the existing but under-enforced regulatory mandate for OSHA consistent workplace safety. 2, the failure to establish minimum worker safety training standards for licensees. And 3, the need for the Commission's investigation and enforcement staff to be trained to recognize and evaluate workplace safety compliance during inspections. The Commission does not need to update, change, or promulgate additional regulation to require licensees to consider worker safety. It already exists in 935 CMR 500 as well as its sister 501, 1051R, which expressly requires that every licensed marijuana establishment maintain written policies and procedures to promote workplace safety consistent with the standards set forth under OSHA. And I'm not going to read all of that.
Thank you.
The requirement is straightforward. Each employer shall furnish its employees a place of employment free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. Despite the regulatory obligation, the Commission has neither established minimum worker safety training standards for the licensees, nor, to my knowledge, has it ever trained its investigations and enforcement staff to evaluate, to make an assessment as to whether licensees are meeting these obligations. The result is a significant and growing compliance gap that places workers at risk and exposes the Commission to legitimate criticism that it does not enforce its full scope of its own regulations to protect industry's workers. Cannabis workers face a recognized spectrum of occupational hazards that align with OSHA's general industry standards, including but not limited to, and my written testimony provides more details. I'm happy to answer questions, but I'd like to get through more of what I have to say in the next 37 seconds. So chemical hazards, respiratory hazards, ball hazards, lockout, tagout, electrification, hazard communications and chemical handling, and emergency preparedness. So the Commission's, during the notice of deficiency data presented at the February 12th, 2026 public meeting, I was very surprised to see that among the cataloged categories of reoccurring violation, 105R1R was missing. There was no, it wasn't even in the top 10, much less the top 25.
You have the number, but what is it?
It is the OSHA regulation requiring that there be.
Gotcha. So you mean the overarching?
Yes. From my work, I can tell you that should have been a top 5. A compliance inspector who does not know how to identify an improperly stored flammable liquid, an unmarked secondary chemical container, a ladder stored in violation of OSHA, a missing SDS binder, or a facility with no posted evacuation routes cannot be expected to cite the conditions, regardless of whether or not the regulatory obligation exists on paper. I'm not suggesting that the staff bears the responsibility for this issue, but training should be considered or demanded. Training investigations and enforcement staff in hazard communication recognition, the NFPA Fire Diamond, GHS pictogram systems, SDS navigation, LOTO indicators, lockout, tagout, ladder inspection criteria, PPE adequacy.
Since we're getting into lots of acronyms, I know you're going to put this in writing, and we're over the 3 minutes. So I know you have a lot here. So if we can, because I know that, we do have a lot of questions and we do have a lot of people signing up. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's a lot of complex testimony that is, that I think that might even be easier for us to digest in written form. But I know Commissioner Rai has a question.
Of course, Commissioner Rai.
Yeah, hi, Melissa. Thank you for your testimony, and I look forward to reading your written testimony. My question is all the things you mentioned, and we're at an inflection point with RVT at the Commission. We all agree, it's consensus that it's stale, that it needs updating, that it's not practical across license types. And so would worker safety be an RVT, do you think, would that be helpful? In other words, one just solely dedicated
100%. As has already been testified here today, workers need to know their rights And they need to know and understand that they can raise their hands when things are not correct. If they don't have egress, which is a defined term by OSHA, and they cannot get out because hallways are crowded with pallets of material or chemicals just being randomly stored, then you have a problem. You have a fire problem, you have a hazard problem, you have a communications problem. So yes, adding a basic training that would, in my experience, add no more than a half an hour to the obligation if it was more in-depth and covered more serious things.
The other obligation and
Replace it.
focus on that.
Not in addition to.
Yeah, that it could be done at a high level that would make people aware and then raise flags. It would also allow investigations and enforcement, whether or not they have full certification training,
Yeah.
to raise a hand and say, I think we have an issue here. We need to go back and look at things. And in fact, one of my recommendations is to update the training to give it that information.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. Any questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. It's very helpful, and we look forward to getting your written testimony. And next up is Chris Hudala.
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and Executive Director. My name is Dr. Christopher Hudala, and I'm the founder and Chief Scientific Officer of Perverti Laboratories. I'm here today to speak on behalf of worker safety. Perverti was one of the first Massachusetts cannabis laboratories established in early 2013. At the time, we believed our primary objective was to ensure consumer safety. I will admit that, like most in the industry in the early days, there was little to no thought or discussion on worker safety. That all changed one fateful day in October 2022 with the revelation of Lorna McMurray's fatality. I mention revelation as this tragedy occurred almost 9 months before being revealed to the public. Since that date, we now understand that consumer safety, worker safety, laboratory competence, and integrity are inextricably linked. For microbial testing, for example, total yeast and mold, the limits that are currently enforced are 2 times more stringent than what is prescribed in the Massachusetts regulation. One might think that limits more stringent than regulatory requirements would lead to increased consumer safety. However, that's not the case. It has caused producers and laboratories that are looking to retain the most clients, leading to environmental fraud with fraud. I commend the Commission's recent release of the testing data, which contains clear evidence of this. When laboratories are passing product that does not meet regulatory requirements, consumer health and safety are certainly compromised. However, consumer exposure is limited based on the periodic use of product. What has largely been ignored is these fraudulent results rob producers of important knowledge, indicators of proliferating microbial contamination within their facility. The facility contamination can go unchecked, immersing workers in constant exposure to these harmful contaminants. The effects of the contaminant exposure can be difficult to identify and diagnose, but we already see some disturbing trends that cannot be ignored. The revelations of lab shopping and testing fraud are not new. Evidence of potency inflation and contaminated products has been presented to the Commission on multiple occasions over the last several years, most of which appears to have gone ignored. It seems that the Commission's focus rather has been on social equity and social consumption, which granted are important aspects of the industry, but not more important than consumer and worker safety. I urge the Commission today to immediately reprioritize to make worker and consumer safety the #1 priority for the Massachusetts industry. Thank you.
Done. Commissioner Roy?
And thank you, Chris. And I haven't ignored it, for the record. And I think this current board is positioned to pivot to testing and by default will help consumer and worker safety as well. And you just heard from the chair on her priority. You had mentioned the contaminants. Can you list either the top 2 or 3 contaminants that you know of that you think pose the greatest risk?
Mold. By far, mold is the biggest problem in this industry, and that is what is probably most erroneously reported in the industry.
Specifically, what species?
What we have seen when we do speciation, I would say 95% of it has been Penicillium citrinum. And that's a species of mold. It grows in the plant, not on the plant, so oftentimes it is not visible. When you have inspections, your inspectors may go into a facility, they're not going to see yeast and mold problems typically. When we have new clients that have yeast and mold issues, failures, we offer a service where we will go in and do environmental swabs. We provide an environmental testing kit so they can do their own on-site monitoring program. When we do that, we never see that client again.
Say it again, repeat that.
When we go into a facility and do environmental swabs, we can show them where the mold issues are and how prevalent they are. We offer them a kit so they can do their own environmental monitoring, so that they can assess mold in their HVAC system, in their trimming machines, in their finished product. They can do their own on-site yeast and mold monitoring. When we provide that kit or that on-site service, we lose that client. We never see that client again. The problem is that the microbial problems can be so dramatic that it's so much easier just to find a lab that will pass the product.
What if I started putting, I'm gonna cop to the fact that I thought there was mold in my gym a couple of years ago, and I brought one of my own little things. I literally put it right in the back of my Zumba class, and I had to show them, yes, you have mold in this gym, and they'd had fire. So I actually did that for myself because I'm annoying, but.
And you have asthma, did you have asthma?
Yes.
Yes.
And I have a sister and I will also tell you, I used to be an investigative reporter, and we were actually doing a story, and I went into a home filled with mold, and I got pneumonia about a week later. So, I understand what it can do to you to inhale mold, but why aren't we possibly doing that? Could we do that?
If you have $200,
Could we mandate? Executive Director.
on-site monitoring of processes, I don't understand why more people aren't doing it. It's critical for understanding your process. When you send product to a laboratory for testing, you should know whether it's going to pass or fail. And this kit, they're basic supplies that are available on the internet, on Amazon. We provide the kit all together. We provide resupply of consumables so people can monitor their own operations.
Sure, right.
So this one, the Penicillium citrinum sounds really insidious because you can't see it with the naked eye, you said. And so investigators, workers, consumers can't see it, correct?
Correct.
It lives within inside the plant. Okay, and then you and I kind of had a quick side conversation after one of the meetings. And how do you test, like, if we go to standardization, how do you test for this?
There's multiple ways you can do it. If you follow Massachusetts law, which focuses on USP guidance, you use a culture-based method. There's numerous culture-based methods. The easiest way, and what our kit provides, is 3M Petri films. It looks the size of a credit card that allows you to plate, and you watch and see if anything grows. And if it grows, you count how many spots you have, and based on a little bit of math that anyone can do, you can tell how bad your mold problem is. And with this kit, it allows you to do environmental swabs of surfaces, cleaning machines, incoming grow material, HVAC ducts, finished product, trim material, anything you want, you can test for mold. It's not quite as detailed or accurate as what we perform in the laboratory, but it's a really good indicator of what's going on in your facility.
So, if I may, please. So you're proposing our investigators, the commission invest in these kits and have the investigators swab?
My understanding from what I've seen and what has been reported is that when investigators come into a facility, they're looking at exit signs, they're looking at video surveillance, they're looking at who's coming into the facility logs. We are now, 12 years into a regulatory program? How many microbiologists are on staff with the Cannabis Control Commission? 0. When I have a question or concerns about microbiology, I feel I have no one to discuss it with, because, no offense, when I start talking to you guys about it, your eyes glaze over because it gets too detailed and too complicated. I want a scientist, a microbiologist who I can share my concerns with, and that has not happened in the past.
If I may.
Commissioner.
We're in the process of hiring our next director of testing compliance, and I agree with you. We need somebody with scientific expertise, industry expertise, who has full command of the issues, that can help us, keep workers safe
in Massachusetts.
keep workers safe, but also keep the industry honest. And so I'm on that panel to help, locate this individual and, those are my priorities as well. So I hear you and I agree.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Any questions? Anybody else? Thank you. We have one additional in-person, Ava Saster from Safety Trainers.
Hi, I'm Ava from Safety Trainers. I wasn't planning on speaking today, so I'm gonna wing it a little bit. But I'm from Safety Trainers. It's a consulting company that's been around for, I think almost 30 years now, maybe more. They do safety training in manufacturers, construction sites. I have a background in cannabis, so I was hired as the cannabis safety consultant. We built a program together. It takes about 10 months, but we go into cannabis facilities once hired. And every month is a new topic, whether it's respiratory, lockout, tagout, anything. It's all making these companies OSHA compliant. So we've helped a handful already of these cannabis companies, and we have a handful more I'm in the middle of working on or onboarding right now. There are grants to cover the cost of us coming in, but we've done a lot of work, and it's a train the trainer system where we go in. Typically, we look at, your respiratory program, see what you have, if you have one. If not, together we write a policy, and then we train management. And then at the end of the month, I have a quick one-page training document that I'll use to train the managers, the supervisors, the leads, and then they go back and they train all their employees on it. So it gets everybody trained during the month on whatever the topic is. And it goes from respiratory, cannabis dust, HAZCOM, lockout, tagout. We do like OSHA 30s and OSHA 10s, but that isn't mandated in cannabis yet, but that's something we also do. First aid training, that hearing as well. I have a NIOSH approved hearing device that I'll go in and we'll go room by room, device by device, and make sure that everything is in the appropriate decibel. And if it's not, we steer them in the direction of getting employees hearing tested or mandating hearing protection. That's really it. Just want to say we're here.
I'm glad you're here. I mean, Ava, I'm sorry, here, stuff is coming in. Ava, so who hires you to do these services? Are you affiliated with the commission? Are you one of our trainers?
No, I'm not.
So just talk to me about that.
So really it's word of mouth right now where I'm at, places like NECAN. I met you last year at NECAN.
Yep, I remember
a couple times. And also we work with the DIA. Like right now is our peak busy season where I think I had 8 to 10 cannabis companies alone apply for those funds, and we'll go in and we'll first aid train. They get reimbursed for it, but I think we have 57 other companies we're doing DIA training for right now. Not just cannabis. I'm just the cannabis person, but we're everywhere doing safety trainings. Just to say it's not.
Mr. Roy?
Thank you. Do you do business in other states besides Massachusetts?
Yes, we're all over the country. We're in Vegas. We're in,
Okay.
yeah,
And do
like
you-
cannabis, Massachusetts, right?
So in cannabis specific, have you worked with other regulators in other states yet?
No, but we work with OSHA a lot.
Work with OSHA. So if you had a magic wand, would you want to work with our investigators and
Yeah.
inform the regulators and the investigators on?
Would love to, because even places I go into and places we finish, we're building a great relationship, and it's great for employees to see that their managers and their owners care about their safety and they're getting all of these trainings that they haven't. A lot of this is education, is that these cannabis companies don't know what they don't know. And it's our job to go in, or my job to go in and train them on what they need to know.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Thank you, Ava.
Yeah.
Thanks for your testimony. Nice to see you again. You talked over doing trainings to help people become OSHA compliant. Are those OSHA standards for general manufacturing or are
General
they?
manufacturing,
Okay,
which is right now what cannabis falls under and will fall under.
okay. And you talked about the training. I actually had a call with the folks at the Workforce Training Fund this week. Our licensees, who you all contribute to the Workforce Training Fund by the surcharge on unemployment that you pay to the state, you're eligible to apply for that training. It is like $15,000 grants or up to $3,000.
It's up to, typically what we do is we help companies write the grant, and we'll over apply. We'll try to get you, $15,000 worth of training. The DIA then takes all the funds and everybody applying and they split it up. So a lot of the cannabis companies that applied for 6 things, they got maybe 2 or 3, but respiratory was always one of them, or first aid training is always one of them. Because if you're a company in Massachusetts and you have more than 1 employee, you need somebody on site at all times that's first aid trained.
So if you could actually send us information, because this might also be, and I know that the executive director wants to make a comment, but this, we do have a director of training, and it was anticipated and, has been going around doing some, we need to be training our licensees as well as our investigators.
Yeah.
And so this might be a very interesting way that we could actually do sort of a broad training across the state. And there might be some ways to get some funds that we could, work with you. Again, I can't promise or commit anything, because people will be looking at RFP things, but anyway, if you could send us information about what you do, that would be helpful for us to think about something. And maybe you already are thinking about that, Mr. Executive Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to clarify for folks. So, we do have some internal training for our staff, obviously getting into this discussion, and we'll come back to the board with how we build that out for both our staff and the industry. In this example, you're referring to the grants. I believe it's the grant that Commissioner Stebbins just mentioned. So you're working, just because I use acronyms too, the Department of Industrial Accidents is the state, right? And so obviously OSHA is federal. You're working with the DIA. The DIA has this grant, which is all through the Workforce Training Fund. Is that correct?
DIA has their own grant funding, and then Workplace Training Fund has another, and we work with both.
Okay, and I believe my recollection, and we can get more information and bring this back as well when we follow up with the board, is that the DIA funding source is not federal. A lot of times we run into issues where there's federal dollars and we're in a federally illegal industry. We have issues. OSHA obviously will work with us, which is great. But the DIA, I believe the source of those funds are not federal, and therefore cannabis companies are generally not able to access that funding through the DIA. The DIA, from the feedback I've received, has been very good about working with.
They love it. Yeah.
Okay.
So last year we were in a few. This year we're in, like I said, I think 6 to 8, and I'm hoping next year is more.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy?
And Ava, you had mentioned ventilation or respiratory. Can you expand a little bit on that, what you're seeing out there?
Yeah, so it is a hot topic, as we all know, but mostly we're seeing employees looking at, the different kind of respirators they're wearing, like the half mask, full mask, or maybe they're not wearing a respirator at all. And we'll go in and we'll fit test them for the respirators. Right now we're working with a side company called SGS Galson, but they've created an air quality testing equipment to go in and test the air quality specifically for cannabis dust and terpene. Yes, I will. I'll email contact over too.
Yeah, just could you put it in one?
I'll put a giant email together. But yeah, it's mostly just training, ventilation. I don't do ventilation, but we make sure we tell them what ventilation they need to have in the rooms. A lot of it is tough because of the humidity, and cannabis is a completely different creature than granite or something where we could just put in a giant filtration system in there. But yeah, we do the ventilators and fit testing, and then just basically telling what they need to be wearing.
Thank you. Do you speak to the air ducts at all, or no?
No.
Okay.
I'm just the training.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we have a couple more that are here in person. I believe Lucas there, we missed you. I had you as remote. Now I have you here, and you can step up to the podium, Lucas.
Congratulations on your grant.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you all for your support of social equity businesses in general. And thank you for hosting this hearing today. It's been a long time coming. You did a lot to make this a reality. Thanks to everyone that did so much to show up at hearings related to other topics to make this hearing a reality, where we are looking at and thinking about worker safety and worker rights in the industry. And I don't claim to be an expert on any of the specifics, and I just came to show my support for the people that are asking you to make common sense decisions for workers in the cannabis industry. I'm a very small business and my team will not probably exceed 5 humans, but some of these businesses have hundreds of employees and those employees deserve a way to speak up and say, hey, this particular aspect of my job is not safe and I want it to be safer. And listen to the experts, please, that have just said to you a bunch of the metrics on that. And also I want to speak to the meetings. You've got the Zoom and then you have the Teams, and it's very difficult because if you're on the Zoom, then you can't see these speakers. And if you're on the Teams, then you can't plug in with the mic. So just we've got to work out whether you're using Zoom or Teams, but not both. That makes things very confusing for us trying to participate.
Know the answer to that question, but we have people here who can.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, we obviously want it for accessibility, and yet we have had issues with the Teams environment. So I believe about June, we should be switching over to a new product called Town Hall, which we'll be testing out for the next few months. So hopefully our future listening sessions will be.
Thank you. Whichever one it is, just pick one would be great. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, thank you so much. And then we have 2 more people, and just, I know that people are waiting remote, so we have 2 people who will be testifying in person, and then we will take a short recess to just make sure that we're setting up the remote or that it's functioning. So going to Jacob Comiskey.
Morning.
Morning.
I am from the same area as from Henry. I also work with the local 1445 union. I've been in the cannabis industry for 3 years, and I work as a packaging lead in our department. So I usually see the final product when it goes out. I have a team about like 20 people. But the main safety concern that most people have at a lot of facilities I've seen is just the air quality. And again, that everyone else has said way better than I can, is a big concern with people. The amount of dust that comes through with everybody is really concerning, I've seen over the years. And it hasn't really been taken seriously, or if people would like to ask questions about it, they, would be retaliated against. But I think the union has helped a lot of people raise concerns with everything with air quality, including mold as well. But I think there needs to be better, I'd say, regulations with machines and people that work close with them. Maybe better, more than just regular face mask, because the amount of dust that people breathe in and go home still covered in it is outrageous, I'd say. But I don't really have much else to say up here besides that everyone else has basically covered everything. So I really appreciate that, and that's it.
Thank you, Jacob. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Jacob. And when you say workers go home covered in it, is it dust? Is that-
Yes, it's dust. Like, I can go home at the end of the day and I can still just blow it out of my nose from the amount of dust that we got. And you can look at our badges, our CCC badges, and most of them are just black with the amount of like dust we have. And we have air filters everywhere, but I think there needs to be more like control with the dust, the amount that we all deal with.
Commissioner Roy?
Just a follow up. Are you or any of your coworkers wearing PPE? And is the dust isolated to production rooms or is it throughout the facility?
Just production rooms. I'd say even cultivation probably have it worse, but like there's a lot of people that have these machines next to them. We'll have 3 or 4 running at the same time, like grinders, like you mentioned. We'll have pre-roll machines and other things, but we'll also have other workers working next to those machines having, breathing problems and stuff like that. So I think, well, the only masks that we would wear are like the normal, like N95 mask, but even that's not really enough sometimes.
Mhm.
So I would look into something maybe just like making machines in a separate room or more ventilation, just even more around the machines, like air vents or anything, to make it less polluted in the rooms. Because every day we'll, clean it spotless, but even in the middle of the day, the next day, it'll just all be covered in cannabis dust.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, you had.
I did, but I think Jacob answered it.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
You use the word polluted. I
Oh,
feel like the rooms are polluted.
just the amount of dust. Not really, I can't say, I mean, with mold, I wouldn't know, but I know people have seen mold before and it needs to be more controlled, more than I'd like to see it. That's for sure. But yeah, I would just say it's mainly just the dust being an issue with the amount that we breathe in. It's kind of scary and concerning to a lot of people. And I think most businesses need to address that instead of just, punishing workers about it and actually taking care of them. Because again, like you said, they're the workers and their health is very vital to make it work.
Thank you. Unless you're running, I just want to be mindful of the time because we're close to halfway through the people who are going to testify and Steph, pronounce your name because.
Coronel.
Coronel.
Thank you,
Thank you. Steph, are you going to come up and speak? Thank you. Thanks, Steph.
No problem. Hi, I'm Steph. I am the business agent with UFCW 1445 that primarily handles our cannabis. Both Henry and Jake are stewards of mine at the facility in Athol for Ascend Wellness Holdings. We represent workers at Ascend, Air, PharmaCann, Netta, Rooted in, GTI, Kecha Labs. We will eventually get to Curaleaf if they would stop holding up things with unnecessary things at the NLRB. No offense to you guys, you're a joke to anybody that works in the industry. And I don't mean like managers, people coming to you looking for regulation. I mean the working people. They see you as a regulatory body that just rubber stamps and doesn't follow through. There's no accountability at their level. I can't say that I blame them. All of my union bulletin boards are full of OSHA notices because they will call OSHA. And pardon my French, OSHA doesn't give a fuck. Unless you're lost an eye, a finger, an arm, or your life, they are not coming in. Instead, we just get a letter that says, hey, we got a complaint, investigate yourselves, let us know what you find. Where is the accountability there? Now, I know you guys we've been doing this, we're inventing the wheel, right? We are learning how this works. There's never been this before. But what we really need to see from you guys is more investigatory stuff, more regulation. People who have worked in the industry, people who have worked adjacent, or even similar. I mean, this isn't the only indoor commercial factory farm that we've ever seen in the United States. There's Little Leaf Farms over in, what is it? Not Danvers. I forget. It's up by, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's a lettuce farm. I mean, we're growing the devil's lettuce, but you're still going to find soil or fertilizer or any number of herbicides, insecticides, anything else there that you're going to see in cannabis. Number one thing that we use to clean with is isopropyl. Now, can anybody here tell me what happens when you mix isopropyl and bleach? You get chloroform. If you mix bleach and peroxide, you get chlorine gas. And if you mix isopropyl and peroxide, you're going to get acetone. Most of the 21-year-olds that I've ever trained in this industry do not know what any of that means. I have literally walked into a room full of chlorine gas because someone was washing a wall with isopropyl and someone was cleaning the floor with bleach. I know, right? I've only ever been trained once in one facility ever about lockout, tagout.
I don't know if that is lockout tag.
So if you have a machine that's not working correctly, you have an obligation for safety, and it's an OSHA thing, to put a lock on the machine to prevent it from running. There's a tag on it that says this machine cannot run again until someone has inspected and repaired it. It's insane. Whenever my members are asking for PPE, we're talking more than just a paper doctor's mask. Some people need respiratories, like just half face huggers, if you will, like 3M, not too terribly expensive. They are expected to file for an accommodation, workplace accommodation from their employer. They have to go through their insurance. The employer will fight them on getting fit tested. It's insane. I have one gentleman that just got doctored out of a job because every time he was sent back to go get another doctor's note, it was more and more restrictive. And then they just fired him for just cause.
So Steph, thank you for the testimony. And actually, you've raised some important points here. If you do have some additional written testimony, again, I just want to be mindful of.
course.
People attending remotely.
Anytime you would love to reach out and chat, you know where the UFCW offices are. I would love to sit down and chat with you guys at length.
I think that we've gotten a lot here that I think will color some of our training, taking a look at, what we're doing, both with the licensees so that they understand their obligation and that our investigators also, I don't care. There's certain things that aren't health and safety, that these are some of the things that we're actually talking about as a group that I'm not worried about enforcing certain things. I'm more worried about making sure that we're enforcing the public health and safety. So
Exactly.
that's one of the things we're actually working
I
and
do want to make one recommendation about the cannabis dust. Any type of working mill, flour mill, plant mill, wood, carpentry, you're going to see vacuum attachments with bags attached to every machine. That's going to cut down on the amount of dust in the air, grime, green boogers, green lung, everything that you're coughing up at the end of the day. It's not great.
I think that's the first time that term has ever been used in public testimony. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's a thing.
So I've learned a lot today, Steph. Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Are there any questions from my fellow commissioners before we take a brief recess to go remote? Thank you very much. And again, so I have been told we're going to take a brief recess just to make sure that the remote is working appropriately. And I will tell you that the first two people testifying remotely will be Dr. Denise Valenti and Noah Dorenzo Carter. So we will take Commissioner Roy, I entertain a motion to recess briefly. Second from Commissioner Steffen,
Second.
having been moved and second, take the call. The roll is unanimous. We will be returning at 11:20 sharp after this recess to take remote testimony. I can, but I will be able to see this on mine, right? I will be able to see this. Yes, okay, I can see this on the screen. All right, reconvening now. Thank you. And first up remotely is Dr. Denise Valenti. So just make sure. We're just trying to make sure we can. Small business, which is really coffee. You know, Boston. Okay, your audio playback device has changed. Again, sorry, as we're sort of dealing. Dr. Valenti, can you hear me? That's a no. She's not there. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, so we now have a new, okay, not there. All right, next up is Noah D'Arienzo Carter. Not there. Okay, this will be faster. James Hawley, the second. James Hawley? Nope, not there. Okay, that makes our life a little faster. Randall Owen? Not there. Jessica Washburn? Not there. Oh.
You see the next one, row speaker.
Yeah, but can I just ask, this is not a technical problem that we're having, they're just, okay. Will Seagard? Will, can you hear me? I can't, let's see. This, Will Seagard, William Seagard? Hold on just a second. Again, sorry for just everyone signed up and we're just going through the list as they signed in. So we're just trying to be fair in terms of how we take people. Okay, can we see that Will is there? You can see his name. Oh, there it is. Yes. Will, I see that it appears that you are muted, Will. See, I can see a mute. He's got you see the red muted microphone. There we go. Hey, Will, now we can hear you. Okay, I solved that technical problem.
Teams, and so I wasn't queued in on the whole meeting. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that we as operators really would love some clarity from you as the commission on how best to protect workers, you know, ourselves being workers in many cases, so that we just have clarity on best practices and steps to take so that we can protect our employees and everybody involved. Obviously, as operators, we don't have the resources to do testing or figure out maybe exactly what needs to be done. And that's where we're looking to the state for guidance. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear and just let you know that we obviously would really appreciate some of that.
Thank you, Will. And, you know, this is obviously something that is really important to me personally, is making sure that we do a better job. You know, we have, unfortunately right now, we have a number of openings for some important positions, and we have some people wearing multiple hats. But I do think that bringing training and, you know, it was great to hear Ava earlier today, because there might be some ways that we can do something like this on a broader level to bring training, both to our own investigative team, but also making sure, I mean, this was what I've heard from the industry. We want to make sure that we know what your investigators expect of us. We want to know what the regs are, and we want that to be consistent. So thank you very much. And just, you are with the Fresh Connection. Are you a cultivator? What? Okay, thank you. And where you? And where are you located, if you don't mind me asking?
In
Pittsburgh. Okay, great. Do you have anything else you want to add, Will? If you do have anything in writing, if you would like to, again, as we mentioned earlier, you can send that to us at commission@cccmass.com. And again, with the subject line of worker safety, anybody who is listening remotely, that I'm just repeating that for today. So I don't know if there are any questions, and if not, I see Commissioner Benedon has a question.
Yes, thank you, Will, for taking the time to be here. I have a question about what you mentioned about looking to the commission for additional guidance and best steps, best practices on steps that you could take to protect employees. And, so generally what we do is that we impose requirements and then we do our very best to enforce those requirements. Are you looking for something that is short of a requirement and that would not actually be enforceable, but that would simply provide more of a framework of recommendations?
Yes, I mean, for those of us who work in the business, it's not just the number, right? We're there every single day and we want to make sure we're protecting ourselves, we're protecting all of our coworkers, even though it might not be a legislative requirement, because it might take time for you to implement that. But if there's new research that comes out and says, hey, today we found out that this is a step you can take to prevent this potentially, or that's what new research is indicating, have a mechanism to convey that to us so we know when we can make changes to protect everybody who's working with us. Does that make sense?
Commissioner Benedon?
Yeah, so, and the follow-up question I'm about to ask, I ask in all sincerity, I'm not being flip, but if we were to put out something like that, but it was not enforceable, it was not a requirement, it is simply best practice, do you believe that the industry would embrace it and implement and absorb what I'm sure will be additional costs and additional hurdles if it is not something that actually has the force of law? I'm curious of your thoughts on that.
I think that some would, others would not, but it shouldn't be held, like if there, again, is it new information out there, we should know that, right? And we don't all necessarily have the resources to be constantly researching this and figuring out what exactly the absolute latest information is necessarily, but the state does, or they're at least in a better position than we are to figure that out. And so to answer your question, I don't think that everybody would unless they were forced to, but I think some people will, and it'll protect at least some people. And for me, I think that is at least enough.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Commissioner Benedon. And again, I also think that this is part of our responsibility to do both public education and training. But I also think that smart businesses will add this equation into their potential workers' comp liability and things like that. So out-of-pocket costs might be a little bit that somebody has to consider, but looking at long-term business risk, that this might be, even if it is an legal requirement. Thank you very much. Well, we appreciate it. Next up is.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah McKenna.
Good morning.
Hi, Sarah. Sarah, could you just identify where your what your affiliation is and where you're calling from?
Of course. My name is Sarah McKenna, and I am not currently affiliated with the company, but I was in the cannabis industry from 2019 until 2024. I worked as a bud tender, as a GM, a manager, sales, brand ambassador, you name it, I've done it in the industry. And I think that a lot of the people before me have covered what a pervasive issue it is, that there are often poor working environmental conditions for employees. I think one thing that has not been mentioned is mental health of these cannabis employees. The industry is incredibly volatile. I worked previously for 15 years as a bartender in Providence, Rhode Island at a very busy sports bar, at a very busy nightclub. And I worked at those jobs for multiple years. And I can tell you personally that I have never seen more turnover in an industry than in the cannabis industry. Workers are treated as if they can work as if they work at Dunkin' Donuts when they are, you know, required to learn a ton of rules, a ton of requirements of them. It's not a job that they should be paid so little to do, but yet most of them aren't. There are inappropriate relationships between managers and bud tenders, customers that are rampant throughout the industry. You know, favorited customers are allowed to break rules. I have compiled a list of stories that I will email to the aforementioned email address of people who I just had reach out to me on Reddit pages and other work contacts, telling me just horror stories of how managers have watched employees get injured, fingers smashed, almost loss of fingers, and had, you know, their employers not follow regulations, one, and not follow even, you know, OSHA protocols of calling 911, just getting them into their car and taking them to the hospital. There's non-compliance on COVID. There was non-compliance on COVID all the time. Rampant sexual harassment from general managers, owners, operators, even customers, and things that we don't just, you know, just wiped across, like pushed up under the table. They would move products off of property without following the compliance rules, not moving them through metric. And one of the reasons that, you know, I agree with Steph saying that a lot of times people don't report these things. And I myself have reported to you guys, sent emails, made calls. Nobody has answered me. I've sent 15 to 30 emails with stories from different cannabis workers from a multitude of companies. I myself have worked for 5 different companies and have horror stories from almost every single one. The plant is overregulated to the point that there's no regulations for the managers, and that a lot of the employees are so mistreated that they don't want to speak up because they're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of being blacklisted within the industry, and they're basically afraid of being unanswered. I mean, all of the people before me mentioning the environmental hazards, imagine what that does to a person going home every day, experiencing these health problems and going virtually unanswered, especially from an industry that is so regulated. Like, you're a regulatory commission, and yet there are things that are slipping through the cracks all the time that don't even have to do with the poor working environment of environmental issues, etc.
So Sarah, we're at time, and just we have a number, you know, a half dozen people coming after you. So please, if you can send us any additional testimony that you haven't been able to get to in the 3 minutes allotted. And again, just trying to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. Commissioner Roy has a question.
Do you still have access to those 15 to 30 emails?
Yes, I do.
Could you resend them to us?
Yes, absolutely. I'll send them as part of my
Yes,
testimony
please.
today.
Thank you.
Any questions? Commissioner Benedon? I see none. Commissioner Stebbins? I see none. Again, thank you very much, Sarah, and thanks for your patience. We appreciate it. Next is Ryan Dominguez from the Mass Cannabis Coalition. Hey, Ryan.
Chair,
We can see you.
commissioners and staff, can you see me in here?
You look big and handsome. Yes, we can see you.
Appreciate it. So yes, Ryan Dominguez, Executive Director of Massachusetts Cannabis Coalition. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of strengthening workplace safety measures across all of our license types. I'll keep my comments brief, but to start, I want to say that our industry supports high standards for workplace safety. We do have to acknowledge that there are many good actors across all our license types that value workplace safety and work hard to meet the same standards of any other regulated industry. And that we can't let, all of these good actors in our industry be penalized as an entire industry due to some inconsistent enforcement of the high standards that we're trying to meet. We did speak earlier about OSHA and the other kind of federal law requirements that we do have. But we do need to ensure that the CCC is enforcing these standards consistently across the board. If OSHA doesn't have the resources or cannot go in and investigate these things, the CCC's investigators should be stepping in to fill any gaps, provide feedback to licensees on how they can better meet OSHA standards, as well as the CCC's requirements. I want to use the November 2024 Cannabis Dust and Workplace Safety Bulletin as an example. The industry worked quickly to update all of their SOPs and processes to address this bulletin, and we all wanted to instill a clear and consistent standard for cannabis dust across our industry. However, many of my members felt that they lacked specific guidance through simply answering email questions or through issuing a guidance document or FAQ on how they should best update their SOPs and whether new processes that they were creating were meeting these new standards. So we actually had to take it upon ourselves at the FCC to share information amongst compliance staff at different companies and put together our best educated proposals for a compliant cannabis SDS. And then we shared that with all of our members that could use the bulletins to meet the bulletin requirements. But it had to be a wait and see approach since that time to see if an investigator would come to one company and prove the cannabis SDS that we put together, while another may go in and interpret the bulletin differently and request changes to that cannabis SDS. So without some more consistency and a continuous feedback loop from the CCC, our members have actually had to go out and independently contract with third parties like 1620 Partners or safety trainers and other OSHA certified trainers across the industry. And these companies are having to conduct their own risk analysis of their facilities to see if they're meeting both OSHA standards as well as the CCC standards. I would recommend that the CCC meet with these different groups, whether licensees who have done this or the third-party vendors that are offering these services. And to that end, one of our members who was not able to make it today, Matt Gamble from Native Sun, has conducted many of these risk analyses at his cultivation facility, and I'll offer a tour of his facility to any of the staff or commissioners at the CCC to explore some of the findings of his company's risk assessment and be able to see firsthand how Native Sun has updated their SOPs and processes to address any potential risks. Just to kind of end it up, I know you all have talked a little bit about the express grants, which are offered through the Massachusetts Workforce Training Fund. I will say that our members have greatly benefited from these grants and have used them to hire folks like safety trainers. And these OSHA certified trainings and manufacturing and retail compliance checklists can help our entire industry, including the CCC. So we're just looking for a real clear, consistent, and achievable workplace standard set. And so if you're creating any of these new standards, we just ask for that consistency, because I do think that there's a narrative out there that is getting pushed by prohibitionists that, you know, a safe, tested, and regulated industry like the one that we have is better off with an industry where we don't have any of these safety standards, which they're trying to move us back into. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer.
And thanks, Ryan. And if you could send us any of that, but also I would like to be first in line to come and to do a site visit. I would really appreciate that. I don't do as many tours as my colleagues do, and I need to get out there. But I also think that, you know, I'm in full agreement that we need to, I think we need to put something in place for late spring, you know, to do something like this, where we're bringing our trainers, our investigators, and our licensees together, where we have questions that can be pre-sent so that we understand how we can do a better job of making sure that you're aware of standards, but also sharing research. So I do think that's something we can do. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Ryan, for your testimony. And you know, you made it clear that your clients, the industry is looking to us. And to piggyback on Commissioner Benedon's previous question, I don't know if you heard it, but basically there's different options, right? There's regulation, there's sub-regulatory guidance. And, you know, one has the force of law regulation, the other one is more guidance. Do you have a particular preference where you think it should live, or is it both, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's a tricky one because, you know, you don't want to put it in something like the statute, which will take forever to change. I think regulations are a similar type of way. So I think with these FAQ documents and guidance documents, all of our licensees will follow them like they are a rule of law, but it also gives us some flexibility as things change, new research and data kind of comes out, or new practices across the industry. So I do think that a guidance document should be something that is living and updated as we get new information. And again, I think our licensees have looked to those guidance documents as something that they want to follow.
Thank you. Any other questions?
If I may,
Commissioner Roy?
And just about, right, so you mentioned a lot of your members have benefited from the grants, and I think I saw on LinkedIn, Megan Dobro had them out at Sativa. And so what percentage of your membership would you say has taken advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, I think safety trainers mentioned like there was only like 6 to 8 people, so it's a fairly new thing. We actually had safety trainers come in and present this opportunity to some of our members. So we're trying to make it a little bit more widespread, but it's also, if it's something that, you know, is promoted by the CCC, I think that could be something that can get it even outside of the MCC. And so we'll continue working to get more people involved with that, as it's, you know, a fairly new thing for us to know about.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy?
And Ryan, who did you say furnishes the grants?
Yeah, so it's the Massachusetts Workforce Fund. I'm misremembering the name of it.
Ava knows.
Hold on one second, Ryan. We might have an answer in the room, Ava. Okay, Ava's gonna send us information.
And if I may, just, so that's a government agency that oversees this, correct? So I'm wondering if we can, just like we, you know, share messaging from the Social Equity Trust Fund, maybe we can share messaging, whether it's in Metric, right? We put a little update in Metric Bulletin or something where the you know, so people can avail themselves to this opportunity that might not know about it. And you said getting it outside of MCC to the industry as a whole. Maybe we can reach out to, and Ava, if you can give us a contact to the, you know, Massachusetts Workforce Fund, get a contact and figure out how we can amplify their message to the entire industry.
Thank you.
100% agree. And, you know, with the Social Equity Trust Fund, I know you all don't oversee that or manage the fund, but even getting out the information to your licensees has been a really helpful tool to get people to understand when deadlines are coming up, how they can get access to resources, et cetera. I think we could do the same thing.
I think so. I think we could.
Yeah, we're also hoping for, you know, hopefully some of our technology budget gets funded because it will allow us to do more seamless communications with licensees. And as is my want, we also are reminding people, I'm going to do this at every public meeting, making people aware of Equity Hub, which is the social equity employment location that is on the Cannabis Commission website. So just putting that plug in there. Commissioner Stebbins.
Thank you, Chair. And again, we had Director Williams and I were following up, I think, Chair, after our conversation with Labor and Workforce Development with ComCore, talking about their workforce training fund, and they said they would be happy to join us either in person or remotely at one of our meetings to talk about their grant programs, which are get answers in 21 days, and they've never run out of money. So that's a good sign for applicants to come out of this industry and get some money.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy?
You know, we talk about positive impact plans, and, you know, the workforce is a community. The workers are a community within this industry. And, you know, maybe we need to look at that on how do you keep your workers safe in your positive impact plan? Because, you know, that's positively impacting people who make this industry go. And, you know, so maybe we need to bring a new lens to that as well.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more added.
Sure, okay.
Commissioner Roy, you just made me think about it, that, you know, there are employees that are accepted into the social equity program. And I think I heard today, a lot of folks don't know where to go necessarily when they see things. And I think that could be a training that's added to your programming now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ryan. We appreciate your input. And moving next to Heather Belfoyle, not there. Greg Padula. Not there. Gerald Dortichin. Gerald?
I'm here.
Gerald, please pronounce your name. I hate it when I mispronounce names, and I don't know if I got yours right.
Hello. My name is Gerald Shaw. Give me 1 second, please.
And Gerald, if you could you're with New Dia.
Yes, my name is Gerald Dorsey Shaw. I am known as the Doctor General within this industry. Honestly, we heard a lot of testimony today about the physical toll choosing to work in cannabis takes on the people that choose to work in cannabis. But today I'm going to talk about the emotional, mental, and socioeconomic uncertainty we face choosing to work in this very legitimate industry. A little bit about me, I have been in this industry since day one, been on the ground floor. Before that, I was one of the people campaigning for the legalization of cannabis because I sincerely believe that cannabis is a tool for medicine, not only holistically, mentally, but also spiritually. I was there when Meta was the only recreational license we were given for almost 2 years. I was there when we were doing 2,800 people on a Friday night. I went to 3 Brookline Town Hall meetings to advocate for Netta because of the host town agreement with the city of Brookline. And the first 9 months of recreational, Brookline had amassed 1.9 million in tax revenue just to the city from Netta's contributions to actually the people that came to Netta for recreational cannabis. I'm going to be honest with you, like Sarah was talking earlier, we do face a lot of mental anguish and uncertainty working in this industry. My aunt died 3 weeks ago, and I came to work 2 days after I got the news she passed away. And I had to come to work because I do not have sick time. I do not have bereavement time. I was in the midst of tears, still greeting customers, still putting a smile on my face. And one of my regulars saw me crying, and he asked me what was wrong. I said, bro, my aunt died 2 days ago, and I still have to come here and come to work. And he said to me, Gerald, never forget, I know you're going through a hard time, but never forget people come here to see you. You are one of the main reasons people come here to one of the most awarded dispensaries in the state. And that made me cry even more because I gave the last 10 years of my professional working life in this industry, and I have nothing to show for it. We have no job security. If you speak up, if you're unhappy in your work environment, you will be fired at will. Not only is dust an issue, but the fact that I have no retirement, I have no bereavement. I have people that work at the McDonald's down the street get paid more than me and have inherent benefits. Now, I'm going to take the last couple of seconds that I have to please put a proposal out there that instead of bringing in unions from out of the state, I would like to see you guys or see us work together to have a governing body of the people that are boots on the floor and the bud tenders and the people that customers come to see for the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding of what this plant can do. And I don't like the argument that it's not federally legal, so I don't have health insurance. There's close to $2 billion in tax revenue. I think a good idea was if you inject some of this money and we have a statewide initiative to make sure that people that work in this very legitimate industry have basic benefits, that we have job security and have sick time and have benefits. It would not only incentivize people to keep shopping legally if they knew that their tax money went directly to making sure bud tenders are not finding that work when they are dealing with the tragedy.
Thank you, Gerald. Again, sorry for your loss and thank you for your testimony. I think you speak on behalf of a lot of workers across the state, so I want to thank you for that. Are there any questions from my fellow commissioners? No, but again, thank you very much for taking the time and
I will talk to make sure this is something that happens because we are 10 years deep into this. And the fact of the matter is that this is a gross oversight and gross negligence on the part of not only the state, but the Cannabis Commission, because this is a legitimate industry and we are legitimate employees and we need to be treated with basic respect. So who do I need to talk to make sure that something changes and we actually get the ball rolling on making sure that people feel at least some job security and at least have basic respect? Because the people at McDonald's make more than us and are treated as human beings.
well, I can tell you that the members from UFCW are raising their hands saying you can call them. But obviously some of these things, probably fall a little bit under legislation. But one of the things we are trying to do, Gerald, is looking at how we can help the industry because you probably know there are many headwinds that all cannabis licensees across the state are facing right now: price compression, overregulation. So one of the things we're doing, this is not an answer for you personally, but maybe a longer term, relaxing of some of the requirements that we have for licensees, because we want to make sure that the industry is healthy and profitable and safe and a great place for people to work. And so what we are trying to do within some of our limited purview as regulators is figuring out, knowing the federal illegality, knowing the fact that, the tax rate on many businesses is, 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70%. We are trying to do what we can to help businesses, but also help employees, whether it's reporting, and that's what this is about today, whether it's reporting and making sure that working conditions are good. Some of the things you talk about, health benefits, that's a little bit beyond our ability right now as regulators. But I think it's also important to maybe call, your local legislators to talk to them about some of that stuff as well. Commissioner Roy had a question?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. But.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, that's the thing, yeah, I can call it a local legislator, but if we have a group that actually represents us as we work with the business industry, because we are a separate industry, I feel like that is something, a proposal that we can make a reality to make sure that people work within the cannabis, because the profits will always be there. Because people like the fact that, we're not facing, having the risk of fentanyl flying on the streets. That's the fact that the profits are gonna be there, that 20% tax is gonna be paid. So let's inject some of that tax money and to make it sure that people that are the backbone of this industry actually have a safety net.
Thank you, Gerald. And we have one more person who's been waiting a long time to testify. And if there are no further questions, again, sorry for your loss. Understand, many of the problems that you're facing, but if you could also, as I've said to other people, if they have more to say beyond the 3 minutes, and we've gone beyond the 3 minutes, could you please send us an email at commission@cccmass.com with the subject line worker safety. Thank you so much, Gerald. And moving on now to Dylan.
Thank you for the.
Thank you. Dylan Baradovich. Dylan. And so that means that Gerald has the last word, unless there are other people who, one more, hold on, we do have someone here. Thanks, Jess. All right, so we have Joshua Broadstreet. Joshua?
Yes, ma'am, that's me.
Hey, Joshua, can you just identify yourself and where you're from? If you could just give us a little context.
Absolutely. My name is Joshua Bradstreet. I'm working out here at Ascent Wellness Holdings in Amesbury with Union FCW or UFCW 1445. And I'm here to talk to you guys today about air safety, the very air we breathe, and the particulate that floats around in it. You've heard a lot today about mold, which is absolutely a problem. I'm here to talk about different aerosolized issues. Specifically, volatile organic compounds, endotoxins, and the lack of regulation, not just in Massachusetts, not just in cannabis, but in America around these issues. To quickly define these things, volatile organic compounds, most specifically terpenes, which we interact with heavily in cannabis, are compounds that aerosolize at room temperature. Right, so you don't need any special circumstances for them to become problems in the air. Oops.
Hold on a second, Joshua. You're cutting out. Joshua, you're cutting out a little bit. Joshua?
Am I breaking up?
Yes, yeah, a little bit, yeah. Sometimes, again, not being, maybe, I don't know if he can turn off his pic. We can hear you, but you're kind of cutting out. I don't know if our tech team recommends that maybe he turn off his camera and just provide, so we can hear you verbally. I don't know if that works, but sometimes that does. All right, Joshua, can we hear you? Yeah, now I can see you're on mute. There you go.
How do I sound now?
You sound fine.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so excellent. So terpenes in the air, they crystallize at room temperature, at which point they can oxidize other VOCs such as formaldehyde or acrolein, which are other irritants that can cause chronic issues. Moving on to endotoxins, these are actually parts of bacteria that have been broken material plasmid, and these are actually significantly worse in the ways that they can cause, like very much the same problem, but to a greater degree. And not only in the short term, but long term, they can cause significant breathing, like now just chronic, so they can affect these chronically. And in fact, we've heard tonight people who felt these effects without really understanding like the pandemic period. So we don't want to talk sure and be exposure. In America, there is no federal or otherwise around regulating endotoxin. The only standard, even in Europe, is the Dutch standard, which limits exposure to 90 endotoxin units per hour period. And there's studies that indicate that even that is woefully inefficient or insufficient. At the federal, likely that would do anything about that, just because of the lack of mobility. State level things can actually be done. That we've obviously really gone quite hard. We're almost done here, so I don't want to take up too much time, but
Hey, Josh, because
submitting everything that I've got to your email at commission.
thank you. That was just going to ask, because we can hear you, but it's not perfectly clear right now. And you, so I apologize. We could hear you, but it's not as clear as it should be. So if you could present us with your written information. Obviously, you have highly technical, scientific information that you want to share that has not been presented to us this morning. So if you wouldn't mind doing that for us today, I'd really appreciate it. I don't know if anybody has any questions for Josh at this point in time. And again, it's really I think a technical issue, Josh. We're just having a little bit of a harder time hearing you, so sorry about that. Any commissioners?
Yeah, definitely gonna send you my information.
Great, thank you very much.
And that, also, I look forward to getting that information, but you had mentioned the Dutch standard. If you could send information around that too, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. You guys, you're gonna love it. You're gonna get a whole little notebook.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, so with
That's all I
that,
got for you.
thank you so much. We appreciate Jess, and thank you very much. Now, I'm just making sure at the staff, we have nobody else that has signed up to testify either in person or remotely. So with that, we will, I just want to make sure that I'm right on the rules. Attorney Porter, I am going to, we will gavel this out and then we will gavel the second one in. Okay. All right. So thanks everybody for the testimony. We will be closing now. I don't know if I'm looking, just making sure. Do my fellow commissioners have any questions or comments before we move to adjourn until the next meeting?
I just want to thank everybody that came here in person and virtually, and this really does inform policy and decision making, and it's critically important that we do everything we can, make sure workers have a safe environment. So really important what you did today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. With that, Commissioner Roy, I will entertain a motion to adjourn until our next meeting date, which is today, March 18th at 1 o'clock. And we will follow a similar path where we will have the people who are in person testify first, and then we will have the people testifying remotely doing that afterwards. So again, Commissioner Roy, do I hear a motion to adjourn until 1 o'clock this afternoon?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Commissioner Stebbins. Having been moved and seconded, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Benedon.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We adjourn until 1 o'clock this afternoon for the second listening session. Thanks, everybody, for your testimony.